Greetings, everyone. But without further ado, I got to bring in my colleague. I can't wait to chop it up with this guy right here. This is the man here. Larry, how's it going today?
Hey, dude, what happened to you? Did you move to Alaska or are you up on the North Pole?
It is the weather keeps changing here. Like sometimes it'll be hot, and as soon as you go out the door, like an hour later, it's like 40, 35, 40 degrees. Or what I don't know what's going on with the weather. And right
All
now I'm
right.
cold in the house.
Yeah, you're dressed from Moscow, dude.
Speaking of that, how was your trip to Moscow?
It was great. It was great. Moscow is a wonderful city. And what makes it wonderful in part of just the people.
No.
So it was the only problem is getting there. It takes eight time zones away, and there's no direct flights. And you got to go through Turkey or Belgrade or Qatar, one of those three to get there.
Well, Larry, before we start talking on the situation between the West and Russia, what is going on in the Middle East? Because someone told me yesterday that Iran struck a Mossad base in Kurdistan, Iraq, taking out a few Mossad agents. What's going on with that?
Yeah, I have not heard that. What I did hear this morning from Alistair Crook is that last night and early this morning, Israel made 3 different attempts to do, let's call it a patrol inside Lebanon. They sent in a tank patrol, and they got pushback each time. So it looks like that's getting ready to heat up. Israel is probably going to try to launch an invasion into southern Lebanon, and I think they're going to get the rear ends handed to them. They are very arrogant. They think that they're a lot better than they are, and they grossly underestimate the capability of Hezbollah. And this is going to be just a self-inflicted wound. I think Israel is going to get bloodied over this, very bloodied, and it will face them with probably the first time in their history of a big military defeat, which will be somewhat destabilizing because the population shift based on the votes in terms of political settlement, they're becoming more extreme. I don't think it's right to call them, quote, conservative. I don't like the connotations of that because being conservative is not necessarily a bad thing. I think what it means is the population is becoming increasingly disposed to not accept any rights for Palestinians, do not have any tolerance or desire to coexist with or live with Palestinians, and to put in place policies that will expel, expunge, eliminate Palestinians. So if you want to call that right wing or left wing or, down the middle, whatever, that's what it is. And that kind of attitude is not going to make any kind of peaceful settlement or negotiated settlement possible. It means it's going to be a fight to the death.
Well, I wanted to ask you because I know I read a lot of things about the incursion into Gaza, and were it not for the United States supplying weapons to Israel, there was a report that said Israel could not sustain a operation in Gaza. So if that is the case, and Hezbollah is like 100 times more powerful than the militias in Gaza, what sense does it make to kick up dust with Hezbollah, especially with America being in a position that she's in now that she can't even deliver weaponry to Ukraine?
Yeah, your problem, dude, is you're just thinking logically. You're trying to be rational. What's wrong with you, man? This is pure emotion. I mean, this is gut level stuff that people they're not thinking with their head. They're thinking with just their emotions, which means you're not thinking, you're just acting. And they're very much like that drunk guy that you may have known in college or high school who's at the bar, and he just starts swinging and throwing punches at everybody without checking the room out to say, hey, I didn't realize they're holding the convention of professional boxers here, and that if I start a fight, I'm gonna get my ass stomped. Which is what I think is going to happen to Israel.
Mm-hmm.
The contrast, as you correctly note, between the I guess the militia forces represented by Hamas, Palestinian Islamic Jihad. They're not really military units per se. They have had some training. They do have some measure of organization, hierarchy. But Hezbollah is the real deal. Hezbollah has transformed itself into a real army, a real military force. And anybody that pretends that they're not that is really making a mistake. You're underestimating your enemy to a point that it's going to be dangerous.
Well, now let's. First, before we go to the Russian situation, Bronco R says, "How can the Israeli military not know that they'll lose?"
Once you have convinced yourself of a delusion, you're going to continue to believe into it until you're laying face down in the dirt. I mean, that's. I think I told you the story of I had a nephew. I'm still alive, thank God. But this was, the kid's now like almost 40. So 20 years ago, was back home up in the Kansas City area visiting. And, this kid weighed, he was maybe, 5'8", 5'9", weighed 140 pounds, soaking wet, real skinny, not muscular, never played a down of football in high school, Pop Warner, none of that, never. But, loved to watch football, maybe you would do some play backyard stuff with people, guys in the neighborhood. And we were talking, and I said, "So what are you going to do?" He goes, he says, "You're looking at the next strong safety for the Kansas City Chiefs." I went, "Really? What? Oh, yeah, I'm trying out next week, and I'm going to make it." Well, it's crazy. He wasn't going to make it. No way. I mean, there's molasses that's faster than him. And so but he believed it. So that's the answer to Bronco. The Israelis are in the same boat. If you look in the mirror and you're the only one you're comparing yourself with, you can sit there and say, "Man, I'm good looking. I am a fine looking man." Okay. I'm strong. When you're the standard of comparison, great. But unless you've actually gone out and matched up against somebody else, and the Israelis, they've up to this point, they're great at killing women and children. Woohoo, boy, tough guys. They shoot their own people. As long as you're not carrying a firearm or weapon, they'll beat you up. They'll kill you. But if you're in a position to actually really fight back and you know what you're doing, Israel is not prepared to handle it, in my view.
Well, now let's go to the 600-pound gorilla in the room. The audio recording of the German generals talking about intentionally bombing the Crimean bridge, destroying it, and dropping salt on the British, saying that the British are already there guiding those missiles that they have into Russian territory. Isn't this the height of arrogance? I mean, we've seen imperial hubris at a high, but isn't this like off the chart with imperial hubris that could bring about nuclear annihilation?
Well, not really. I mean, look, they got caught. They just assumed that they had this great conversation. Nobody was listening in and recording it. Well, that's foolish. I assume that everything that I say on the phone is picked up and recorded by God knows who around the world. That it's not just in the United States; it'll be in the United Kingdom and could be in Russia and China and wherever. So, but you're right about what they revealed. Well, it is damning. I think Russia already knew that. It's not news to Russia. They knew that there are American, British, French, Polish, German military personnel on the ground in Ukraine, working with the Ukrainians, helping target, helping carry out the attacks. The real issue is at what point is this going to create political pressure on Vladimir Putin to act against the Germans, the French, the British? I saw a report late last night, or very early this morning, that Russia launched, so on March 3rd, yesterday, late in the day, they launched an attack on one of those CIA bases that were described in the New York Times piece that came out a week ago, Monday. And that they killed a lot of the Ukrainian Special Operations Forces, as well as CIA personnel. Now, if that's true, that signals that the Russians now are going to increasingly target these bases, locations where foreign fighters are operating. They're already blowing up Patriot missiles, which means if it's manned by a U.S. crew or a British crew, they're dead. And up to this point, the NATO countries have gotten away with it by maybe asking these guys to resign from the service officially and go over there in an unofficial capacity, or at least in association with the CIA. But, Russia's getting stronger, not weaker, with each passing day. Russia is getting more capable of being able to reach out and touch anybody that's in Ukraine doing anything nefarious in terms of planning, organizing, or trying to execute an operation against Russia. And they're going to be targeted. So I think this is starting to send a message. And the intercept of this German conversation, it's big news. I know in Russia, I've been watching RT because you know how it is with the news coverage. A story will break, and man, it's all obsessed for about one day, and then they're off to something else. So it's like dealing with a 3-year-old kid. First he's got the hammer and got to play, and then the bike, and then goes from toy to toy to toy. They're doing nothing but intercept of this German conversation, because it's the Germans have confirmed it's legit. Yeah, this is real. There are some opposition groups that are already filing a lawsuit against these 4 generals. But it got Olaf Scholz he got himself in hot water with the Brits, because he said, well, hell yeah, we're not going to do like the Brits and put our troops over there. And the Brits go, what? You ratted us out, mate. So, remember all the times you'd hear Lloyd Austin and Joe Biden talk about how unified NATO is?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, well, they need a marriage counselor now because they're fighting amongst each other. They're not happy with each other. So you got clear divisions between Germany, France, the UK. Those are the big countries, and I can only imagine Turkey sitting there looking at going, man, that mess. Who wants to be around those people?
And I think it was released at a time when Lavrov was in Turkey. Because
yeah. So the timing, we got to look at the timing of this last week. So Monday, out comes the New York Times piece about CIA involvement with Ukraine. It was a very misleading article, but it was conceding that the CIA is up to its eyeballs inside Ukraine. Then you had Macron make his statement about, well, we haven't ruled out putting NATO forces inside Ukraine to fight the Russians, which was followed the next day by Vladimir Putin doing his State of Russia speech and spent 2.5 hours going over both the economic, foreign policy, national security situation that Russia confronts. And within that, he made it very, very clear that Russia has been the subject of these Western attacks and that it's a red line and that the West should sit down and think very carefully about this because Russia has nukes and will use them if necessary to defend itself. And then the next day, this intercept is leaked. Now, there's lots of speculation. I believe the most likely is the Russians had intercepted the conversation. They had it, so they've known about it for, about 4 or 5 days. They decided, okay, we're going to go ahead and release it because it complements what Vladimir Putin said the other day. They put it out through RT. Man, RT is, they're like a dog with a bone, boy. They're not letting go of that thing. They're just chewing. And they're still chewing on it today.
Well, back to Vladimir Putin. Well, one of our people said, Andy says, as Medvedev said today, they, meaning the EU, have a leader in Russia that is as restrained as Putin. I absolutely agree with him because I think the way that the West have been needling Russia, any other leader would have thought that they would have been forced to confront them militarily.
Right. Well, they already will launch missiles at us. There'll already be some smoldering bases in Europe, NATO bases with dead U.S., German, Poles, French, British troops. Putin has exercised enormous restraint because I think he appreciates what are the possible consequences of carrying out such strikes, but he's not ruling it out. He's noting that those are still on the table. And the West is being very foolish if they think it's not. I'm sure maybe in your life you've seen a situation where there's one guy who's the bully, and he's finger poking some other dude in the chest, and he keeps doing it. And the guy is getting finger poked, just trying to avoid a conflict. But eventually, he gets one finger poked too many, and he cold cocks the other dude and puts him out. Yeah, I'm afraid that's what we're getting ready. Well, we'll see here when, once Russia says, okay, you're not going to keep finger poking me like this. You're not going to keep launching HIMARS or now attacking missiles or Taurus missiles or Storm Shadows and kill Russians and kill children. No. This is going to stop. You're going to pay a price.
And Larry, what's so brash about it, excuse me, is that not only was the recording released, but prior to that, maybe a week or so before that, Victoria Nuland gets on bragging that Russia will start feeling the pain asymmetrically and all of this stuff. And then you get audio like this. This is the height of imperial hubris. And I'm asking you, are all of these people who are in control of U.S. policy, are they insane? Because they act like it. Because you have to judge a person by the way they move and the actions that follow what they say. And it seems like to me that they're on the ledge or on the edge of pure insanity.
Well, I think that NATO still has a card up its sleeve it could play. If they play this, it would shock the Russians so bad they might lose. Victoria Nuland should send them naked pictures of herself.
They may say, I submit.
Oh my God. They go, get the Lysol. I got to clean my eyeballs, man. I got to get that image out. I can't unsee that. Holy smokes.
Oh my God.
Sorry. I mean, good Lord. That's like that'd be like seeing Jabba the Hutt naked from Star Wars. Holy
Oh,
God! So
they're laughing
sorry.
in the chat too. Um, yeah, I think any other leader would have felt the need to respond militarily and economically. I mean, it seems like in the West, there's a faction that want to bring this to a conclusion and then face off against China as if China is some type of enemy. And then it seems like there are others who have a vendetta that have their historical roots in that area, and they have a vendetta like Nuland, Clinton, and a host of other people that are their family members are from that area over there in the Caucasus. And
well,
why is the Newton faction winning?
but no, they're just nobody's ever told them no. So this goes back 20 years with the whole neocon cabal. So the likes of Paul Wolfowitz, Douglas Feist, Victoria Nuland, the Kagans. You know, they've been pushing this nonsense for almost a quarter of a century, and they've gotten away with it. They haven't. Decent people would isolate him, wouldn't even let him be in public, wouldn't allow them to have any kind of platform whatsoever. But that's not the case. They're allowed. They're treated with some measure of respect and listened to, which is shocking because the record's so poor. But Nuland. I wish I could bet money on everything that she says, and then because if you do that, if there's a bookie willing to say, okay, yeah, I'll take bets that everything she says will come true, I'd be betting on just the opposite. Everything she says it won't come true, and I'd probably be pretty wealthy pretty quick, because but she really is. She's like a disease. She's a sickness, and reflects just a part of the sickness that has infected American political culture over the last 20 years. This insatiable need of the United States to go out and attack other countries or try to start a war, or we've succeeded in starting a war without having a clue about how to finish it, or even realizing that we can't finish it. We have embarked on a conflict with Russia that, if we push it to its logical conclusion, means Russia will use nuclear weapons and destroy the United States.
Again, I think about, as you're saying this, and I'm thinking about Victoria Nuland, and I thought about what you said about this disease. Well, this disease has affected the U.S. government in such a way that it is driving it over a cliff.
Yeah.
And are there any adults in the House that can press pause or put their foot on the brakes? Because it seems like the U.S. is going over the cliff and going over the cliff fast.
Yeah, no, and that's what's really bad. I was when I was in Moscow last week. I was with a former. He describes himself as a former Russian diplomat. I'm pretty sure the guy is former KGB, but that's okay. I mean, just because you're KGB doesn't mean you're the heart of evil. But he described being in meetings, several meetings and interactions with the current head of the CIA, Bill Burns, and that when they both were in an Arabic country and both spoke a bit of Arabic to each other and were talking about things. Well, that Bill Burns doesn't exist anymore. He's gone. He's been, aliens have taken over his body, and he is now fully on board for this destructive fantasy. So no, there is no adult in Washington, D.C. that would stand up and say something to this effect. Say, oh, okay, folks, look, we're going to come clean with you. The United States, since before 2014, was involved with working with intelligence elements in Ukraine in order to make Ukraine a proxy of the United States. Because our ultimate goal was to use Ukraine as a springboard for destroying Russia. for eliminating the threat that we believe we perceive from Russia. As a result, we helped engineer the overthrow of a democratically elected government headed by Yanukovych in February of 2014, at which point we facilitated the takeover by radicals that have sympathies and direct affiliations with Nazis. And those Nazis then decided to pursue their policy of eliminating Russian speakers, which launched this 10-year civil war. And during that entire period, we did everything in our power to try to build up Ukraine militarily instead of trying to find a peaceful accommodation with Russia. Because again, we didn't care one bit about getting along with Russia. Our goal was to destroy Russia. And so to that end, we kept adding members of NATO and kept talking about putting Ukraine into NATO. And even though, Vladimir Putin was still, abiding by arms control agreements, we walked away from the Intermediate Nuclear Treaty, the INF. And then as a result of that, Russia backed out of, not only broke with the INF, but said, okay, we're not going to continue with START anymore. So we've basically eliminated any controls whatsoever over nuclear weapons. And then when Russia came to us in December and tried to say, hey, look, what we're looking for guarantees that you're not going to continue to push NATO towards our borders, we told Vladimir Putin to go pound sand. So we now realize that that was a bad policy because we thought Russia was weak. Russia's not weak. We thought Russia's economy was fragile. Turns out their economy is strong and robust. They control their own destiny because, unlike us, they're self-sufficient. They've got every natural resource they need to run their manufacturing and industrial base. And unlike us, they maintain their industrial base and their manufacturing base. And so they're producing more tanks, more hypersonic missiles. They're producing missiles we can't even build. We haven't even figured out how to build what they're building. So instead of provoking a confrontation with Russia, we need to find a way to back this down, come together and talk, and figure out how we could live together in peace as opposed to enemies. Nobody's going to say that. Are you crazy? No. They locked me up.
But growing up, my mom says, when you're wrong, admit you're wrong. Don't stay in the position of being wrong, because I don't care how long you're wrong, it'll never make it right. You got to admit that you're wrong before you can move on and progress. It seems like no politician wants to admit, hey, listen, we started that. We had plans for that. We did this. They are so concerned about their political careers that they don't view the loss of life in the thousands and tens of thousands as something that should be stopped at the moment, so long as they can bank on an influx of money for their campaigns. That is insanity. That's being a sociopath or something.
Right. Yeah. No, it's crazy. One of the people I was with in Moscow, I don't know if you remember Congresswoman Cynthia McKinney.
I interviewed her several times.
All right, yeah. So I was with her. We were together. She's a sweetheart.
Yeah. And, she actually invited me on the fact-finding mission to Libya right before NATO bombed Libya. She actually invited me to be one of the people on that fact-finding commission.
Oh, okay, cool.
Yeah.
Well, she's a great lady.
Yes, she is.
Yeah. So we had a good time, but she's what I call typical of a politician that doesn't fit this mode. I mean, she is about seeking truth, and if she finds something out that sort of goes against what she believes, she's gonna have to deal with she'll deal with the facts. She's not gonna keep her head stuck in the sand like some ostrich. So unfortunately, we got a lot of people who are well educated, but good God, lacking in judgment or overcome with emotion.
That she was the one that outed the pledge for Congress people that said that they had to make a pledge allegiance to Israel also when they're going into Congress or whatever. She also talked about the in Libya and in Iraq and Afghanistan, the repercussions of the use of depleted uranium and stuff like that. So she did a lot on that. But and I know I can't keep you long, but Larry, I got to ask you this. YouTube, stop it. Come on.
Yeah,
they're messing with us now. But anyway, Larry, I want to ask, where is all of this leading? Because the U.S. continues to like hit this wall, and it thinks that the more it hits the wall, the wall will eventually move out of the way. Where is this going? Because they're antagonizing China, their largest trade partner, largest investor, largest lender.
Yeah.
They're antagonizing Russia. Russia accounts for 20 to 25% of U.S. nuclear power, which is insane. The United States is one of the largest purchasers of Russian oil and gas. They're antagonizing Iran, Venezuela, the three African nations that pulled out of the little northwest African Union or something like that.
Yeah. So Mali, Niger, was it Mali, Niger, and Chad? Was it?
I think Niger, Mali, and Niger, and Burkina Faso.
Burkina Faso. Okay, yeah.
So where is this going? Because this empire, as she's wounded, instead of showing contrition and saying, listen, these policies that we've implemented have been a mistake, so that the people can stop and say, well, maybe we can start working with the U.S. because they're showing contrition. Instead, they're doubling and tripling down on failed policies.
Yeah. Unfortunately, I think it's going to take a disaster, a foreign policy disaster of some great proportion, to finally wake us up and bring us to our senses. So, what would that look like? So, the defeat of Ukraine. If we decide to try to intervene militarily, then you will have more U.S. casualties from a 1 month intervention in Ukraine than they lost in 20 years in Afghanistan and Iraq combined. So there's that risk. There is the risk that the United States will try to engage Iran militarily. And again, we're going to lose. Look at what's happening, excuse me, with Yemen. We keep dropping bombs on them. They keep blowing ships out of the water. But so our bombs aren't working. We're not, the use of, when you use military force, it's really, I'll boil it down to, it's a real simple thing. It's like if somebody is threatening you and they're actually attacking you, you got a couple of choices. You can submit. You can completely give up and just let them, pummel you, rape you, steal from you, whatever. Or you can run away. That's not a bad thing. If you can run away, get away from the danger, do that. Or you can turn around and beat their ass. Or at least fight and find out, okay, are we equals, or am I stronger, or am I weaker? What's the deal? And that's the problem the U.S. has. It doesn't know, as the old Kenny Rogers show, song. It doesn't know when to hold them and when to fold them and when to walk away. So we keep doubling down on policies that are going to be self-destructive. and without having a good, clear strategy, what is it we're trying to achieve? So we're going on, let's say, December, January, February, March. We're going on 3 months of dropping bombs on the Houthis. Hello, it hasn't stopped them. They don't appear to have missed a beat. They keep launching their missiles out. So as I said, at some point you got to wake up and go, okay, what is it that we're doing? What's our goal? And I'm a big believer that figure out what it is you want to achieve and figure out what you need in order to get to that end, and then go, work to accomplish that. Instead of just saying, boy, let's hope and pray something happens here.
Well, we'll leave it right there. Once again, man, you hit it out the park, my guy. Thank you so much for joining me. I'll send you the video in a few minutes. Thank you so much.
All right, brother. Good to be with you.
And I'm glad you had a safe trip back, man. I'm telling you.
Yeah. I tell you to stay warm, but man, the way you're bundled up, you make Eskimos look like they're scantily clad.
Larry, I'm done with you.
All right. Later, man. Bye-bye.
All right, later. Everybody, thank you for joining us on this episode of the Red Pill Diaries. Bronco, thank you so much for your super chat, man. We really appreciate it. For everybody, please like, subscribe, and share. Tomorrow we'll have Tom Luongo on the platform, and Wednesday we'll have Kiji Noi on the program. So you guys continue to support. Let us do this thing. Let us get the truth out to the masses, all right? On that note, I go out the same way that I always come in, with love in my heart for each and every one of you who love truth, but know that the love that I have for you will always pale in comparison to the love that the true and living God has for you. Until we next speak again, stay strong, stay true, but above all things, stay righteous. Hey, mama, your baby boy loves you more than life. Deuces, everybody. I'm out of here. Peace.